One thing I've always wondered about you, Suzanne, is your ethnic background. I remember when I first met you, it was the Congo Square board, right?
Yeah.
And we met through Les Coney. And I was always like, I mean, she's black, but she's not just black.
Is she really black, though?
Is she really black, though?
I get that a lot. So I was born in Guyana, which is a country on the mainland of South America. And not a Spanish-speaking country. It is not considered part of Latin America.
Is it Portuguese?
Nope. It's English-speaking because our last colonizers were the British.
Ah, the wonderful British.
The wonderful British. And so Guyana is considered part of the West Indies. So it's part of CARICOM, and it's a Caribbean country in culture and style and lots of ways.
You do got cool style.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, you got a good vibe for sure. When did you move to the United States of America?
The first time I came to the States, I was probably 3. Okay. I was what you would call homeschooled. They didn't have a name for it then. But my parents were entrepreneurs in the West Indies. I traveled a lot with them. And so I was like back and forth.
This makes sense given now you are an entrepreneur.
Why, thank you. I did think of that.
Makes sense. Wow. So then what is Guyanese? Are you native Guyanese?
Yeah, I'm Guyanese. I'm an American citizen now.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But I claim both. So I'm definitely.
Do you still have your Guyanese passport?
I do. It's a relic.
I
love it though.
Do you ever travel with it?
No.
No reason to. Right?
There's no reason to. You know what though? I just read one of these Facebook groups I'm on about visit Guyana or whatever, and they're like, we can still vote in the Guyanese election.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, maybe there's like some short-term residency requirement, like if you maybe have visited or been there.
I feel like no one's gonna really check on that in Guyana.
No.
Right.
But I didn't know that. So anyway.
Vote away.
Hey, I'm in Chicago. We vote often.
Right, we do. So welcome to Business News and Other Shit. That is Suzanne Griffith, which does not sound very Guyanese, but is it?
Well, Griffith is very English.
English. Got it. So this is a relic of the English colonizers.
Yeah. So
this sound, the way I sound, relic of the English Empire.
Exactly.
I don't know what the hell I'm saying.
The brilliant English Empire, shall we say.
No, my accent is the American Empire.
Well,
that's what this is.
There's that too. So anyway, you should know this about Guyana. More than half of Guyanese people are of East Indian descent.
Of East Indian descent. Mm-hmm. That means the East Indies. I understand the East Indies to be like what? Indonesia, Malaysia.
It's just India. Good
old-fashioned India?
Right. Good old-fashioned India.
Wow.
Yeah. But East Indian versus West Indian is really what they mean, right? So
wait, when we say West Indian, do we mean West Indies? Or
yes.
West Indies? Okay, got it.
Yes. West Indies, West Indian, we're talking about the Caribbean, right?
Yes. What a term. Not even close. Like, we're not Indian. No, Columbus. I'm Columbus. We're going to call you Indian. Like, no. We're not Indian.
Yeah.
Like,
so after slavery was abolished, and you still need labor, right? There was a whole movement around indentured servitude.
When is this? The same time the U.S. abolished slavery?
Slavery was abolished in the Caribbean before the U.S.
Get the F out of here.
Probably not by much, but somebody fact check my history there. So they brought in indentured servants from India, from Portugal, from China.
Wow.
So Guyana is, I have cousins who probably in America you want to call them Chinese just based on their features.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
First cousins?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
This is how people intermarry, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm sorry.
A beautiful thing.
That's beautiful.
That's a beautiful thing.
I'm sorry, white supremacists. That's a beautiful thing. Any white supremacists listening. John Dolder, what's up, assistant producer?
What's up? Not much.
We're not going to talk about white supremacists with you at all.
No,
We've gone through that whole white power.
We've covered that in the past 15 episodes.
Yeah. The whole Ohio thing and your ancestors.
Yeah.
Tell me about your ancestors, John.
My ancestors, I'm like German, French, Swiss, British. My family slept around all of Europe pretty much.
One way to put it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and then we came over probably about in like the mid 1800s.
Oh no shit! You know your story. That's cool.
Like my grandpa has this briefcase full of like old documents and stuff from like my family coming here, and like there gets to a point probably back in the mid 1800s where it just turns all into German.
Oh,
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So like damn near with the Mayflower and everything, right? Or
Yeah.
when was that? Oh, no, I was 16.
No, that's
16,
200 years
That
still.
was 16 something.
Yeah, it was
Oops.
a little before, but he was keeping track.
This is Abe Lincoln's time.
Yeah, around there.
The Germans came over.
Yeah, my family came over and then moved west to Ohio.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Suzanne.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Happy to be here. It's great
met-
to see you.
It's
been
a
so
pleasure to
been
see
so
you.
long.
It has been a long time. We met through Les Coney,
Yeah.
who's kind of a mover shaker here in Chicago.
Friend of Les. Are you an FOL?
FOL, friend of Les. Yeah,
Remember that.
I want Les to come on the show.
You should totally have Les on the show.
Yeah, I reached out to him.
That'd
He's
be
like, I
hilarious.
totally want to be on.
That
And
would be
then-
hilarious.
Why hilarious?
Because Les is funny.
Yeah, he's
you
a
know
good
Les
dude.
is funny.
Such a solid dude, right? God bless him. If you're listening, Les, God bless you. So that's how we met, through the Congo Square board. And
Congo
then
Square Theater,
the theater, right.
for those of you who
Thank
might
you.
not know.
Yeah, plug for the theater.
Not Congo Square, New Orleans.
No.
But it is inspired by that.
Right, right. So yeah, Congo Square is fantastic. I love those guys. And then we stay connected because I used to see you in the JP Morgan. I used to work in the Chase Tower,
So did I.
and you did too for Exelon.
Right.
And so we bump into each other here and there.
Right.
And you'd be like, "Hey, Amr." I'd be like, "Hey, ambiguously ethnic Suzanne."
Yeah, right.
I was in my mind.
You
I'm
have
like,
to explain who I was to your friends in the lobby.
No, not at all. Back then, I used to be like, in my 20s, and I'd be like so uncomfortable with race, so confused about race, and I wouldn't be able to speak about it the way I just did right now. You know,
Really?
so I just kept them back in my mind, like I don't know what I think she's black. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I would never have guessed that about you.
Oh yeah, man. I got some really wicked thoughts inside my head. You don't want to know.
I mean, the uncomfortable part.
Yeah, extremely. That's interesting. I really faked the funk pretty good, huh? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You did. Why were you uncomfortable though? Like you grew up here in the U.S., yes?
I did. I guess I felt like I would be offending you if I asked that type of question. And so I felt like I don't know how to ask this question.
Do people ask you?
Occasionally, I get it. When I was younger, a lot more.
Yeah. Are you offended?
The most annoying thing I used to get was I'd be like, yeah, so I'm Palestinian. And the first thing, especially like the white people, they'd be like, so what do you think is going on? You know, what do you think of what's going on in Palestine and Israel? You know, I'm like, I don't know, man, I'm not over there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, also, we're in an elevator. Like, just say hi. Let's keep it moving.
It's like when when someone talks to someone from Hong Kong and like, oh, you can't spit there.
that's what they say. It's the first thing they say.
Yeah, that's like the first thing they say. So the first thing they say for you is the whole...
The war, the conflict, you know? And I'm like, I don't know, man. We lost our land. You really want to bring it up right now? I don't really want to talk about it. You know
That
what I'm saying?
reminds me of when I was in college. So I went to Lawrence University, which is not very diverse. Good old
good old
Appleton,
middle of Wisconsin,
right? Green Bay, Packer country, all that jazz. And one of the a student that was there, like it's very few black students, right? Very few black students or international students at the time that I was there.
I'm going to guess you were the only Guyanese person there.
Definitely the only Guyanese.
You might be the only Guyanese
not
in
to
the
be confused
Midwest.
with the Ghanaians, of which we probably had close to a dozen, right?
Ghanaians are people from Ghana?
From Ghana.
Wow,
Different continent.
A dozen from Ghana.
I'm exaggerating. There might have been like 6 of them.
Okay, that's half a dozen. Still pretty good.
Anyway, so this one guy was like, when you are in class and you're the only black person in class and some question about Black America comes up or, you know, something like that, he was like, do not answer the question. You cannot speak for the whole race.
Nice. Smart man.
I thought so.
Yeah,
Good advice.
absolutely. White dude?
No. My homeboy, Vel.
Nice.
Yeah.
Smart
He's
man.
really militant.
Oh, really? I'm picturing one of these things, Black Power,
Exactly.
So it's great to have you on. I'm glad I mean, in some ways, we never worked in business together, but I felt like all the people around us and many of these boards and just you were at Exelon, I was at Chase or JP Morgan, like it was always business was the kind of undertone, but we would only talk about philanthropic stuff or theater stuff or something like that.
Yeah, civic business
stuff. Yes, and I got to tell you, like being on the Congress Square board was inspiring for me because I was like always wanted to be in theater. So that was my first foray into it, and that like when it opened my eyes, I'm like, whoa, this like I want to hang out with the actors and actresses way more than I want to hang out with the board people. It became
Thanks a lot.
It became very clear to me, like, oh man, I need to develop a whole nother part of me, and then boom, now I got a podcast.
There you go, and you're a comedian.
Trying, baby. So it's great that you're here. In the most simplest way, we're gonna spotlight you, right? We're gonna talk to you more about what you do in the second half. But in the simplest way, in a few words, you are the, I know it says managing principal as your title.
Oh, yeah.
I want to call you the founder and CEO of Vega Partners.
Sure.
Because that is what you are.
That is what I am.
What does Vega Partners do?
So we are a social impact consulting firm, and we work with companies and nonprofits around all things corporate citizenship, and how our tagline is, we help you make your good greater. So
we help you make your good greater.
Right?
Okay.
So
the good that the company does or the nonprofit, we help it make it greater.
Exactly.
Okay. So a social impact consulting company. That's cool because that is all the rage right now.
Yeah.
You've been doing this way before it became the rage.
So my entire career has been in some version of philanthropy. I was either asking for resources or on the side of helping distribute resources. So, and I still do that. Now we advise more on either side of that coin, right? But we just talked about the trust. And the identity funds at the trust that we're both
Chicago Community Trust, right?
Chicago Community Trust, and so that still keeps my toe in the water in terms of doing that as a volunteer,
right?
In that civic way. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so it's like we can think of you as like management consulting, but not McKinsey management consulting in that way. It's more management consulting for companies or nonprofits. So let's think of companies for a minute. That are like, yo, we want to be better corporate citizens.
Right.
We're realizing that this is a wave hitting the world. Call up Suzanne Griffith, get her on the phone.
There you go.
Tell her to teach us how to make this happen in our company because all we think about is shareholders and profit and bottom line. That's all and we need to change that.
That's exactly right. And what we find is that companies, small, medium-sized enterprises, they're doing it anyway. The question is, they're doing it because people, I think, are innately good and they want to do something good. And right. Thank you. And when you've received goodness, you kind of want to share some of that, right? So pay it forward, share the wealth, whatever term you want to use. And so we know that, companies are out here and they're doing it. And that's great. We want to support them and how they do that so there's still a business return for them.
Right. And that's what we're going to talk about is that business return. Before we talk about that, let's jump into talking about some business news. All right. So, and this is going to link up with something we've been saying. What did you need there? You need glasses?
Yeah, let me grab those.
Yeah, grab
I
it,
can't
John.
read without them.
Cool. So, I feel like at some level, as the world tries to move us in a direction of more social consciousness, sometimes the world overshoots. Sometimes we accidentally, it's not the right way to say it, but all I can think of, we just blow our load a little bit early. You know what I'm saying? Like WeWork CEO, Gonzo, Adam Neuman.
Yeah.
I've been bitching and complaining about this guy for the last 6 months, being like, how is this guy still existing? And finally, he's out, which is exactly what needed to happen.
So can we level that up? I mean, like this
What do you mean
has been
level
my
it up?
question, not just WeWork.
Oh, I know.
I mean, this whole so-called,
charismatic
unicorn, venture.
CEO.
All of this. Like, I am not an MBA. You know, I don't come to this from a finance background like you have. And so I'm just like, I don't understand why people are giving so much money to companies who don't show profitability in the first place.
Right. That's and
so help me understand.
The buck just stopped with WeWork and Endeavor. Endeavor is Rahm Emanuel's brother, Ari Emanuel, who owns that talent agency out in I think it's previously known as William Morris. They shelved their IPO. WeWork cut their IPO by $30 billion from 47 to 17.
10, I saw.
Now 10. I think the whole thing is folding as we speak, and they're starting to lay off tons of people. I think the whole thing was a sham, unfortunately, and we're going to see a lot of people who thought they were about to be millionaires next week. These like kind of like the executives who've been with WeWork the last, few thousand people who've been with WeWork the last several years, nothing. They're going to get nothing. Adam Neuman actually was able to cash out. He walked away with $750 million.
Wow.
Can't believe it. Don't know how he did it. And
you know how he did it.
right, I do. So walking around the office barefoot is how he did it. So their mission statement, right? WeWork, to elevate the world's consciousness. This sounds a lot of like social impact ESG stuff gone wrong.
It's they call that sometimes like there's a term for it like greenwashing, right? But it's not greenwashing. Right?
What's greenwashing? So
greenwashing was a term that originated when social impact was all about the environment. And so, it
was all green related. They just fed through the green filter,
or green
right?
Related, and you could sort of say you're doing something like, we recycle whatever. You recycle like one day out of the year.
We're green now. We're green.
Right? But you can say that, and it's true.
Yeah.
You could spin a whole series of stories around it. So this is happening. There's some other podcasts I listen to and things that I read. And so you're right. We are seeing this trend to all of these, spiritual sounding taglines that companies are going to change the world in that way. And, who am I to say? Like, that could possibly happen, but I still think it has to be rooted in something material and concrete in terms of your local world, right? And so the other thing that we say is, Vega Partners impact the world brilliantly, wherever your world might be. So if you're a small nonprofit and you only operate, in this particular neighborhood, you can impact that world.
Own it.
If
right.
you are a multinational company, you can do that.
Right.
Your world is bigger, and everything in between.
Right.
But you
just
want it to be rooted in something like real, like touch people, like
what's your figure out what your shit is, and that is what you need to own.
There you go.
Don't the moment you start delving into somebody else's shit, you're in the wrong place. So yeah, we work totally.
There's a couple other
now did you, by the way,
remember Google? I don't know if it's still their tagline, but their thing was do no evil.
No, I don't remember that. That was their tagline, do no evil.
Yeah, or something to that effect.
That's pretty good. Is it still that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, I tried.
Don't lie. Were you consulting WeWork on their social impact? Did you come up with elevate the world's consciousness? You sure it's not you?
We did not. No, we can't take credit for that one.
All right. How about this one? To make a bigger difference around the world. I think that is
Who's that one?
eBay.
Okay.
They lost their CEO last week, who was also kind of one of these yoga babble type of guys. There's this guy named Scott Galloway who's a professor at NYU. He calls it he's like, the moment you start hearing too much yoga babble out of a CEO.
I know, but as a yogi, I'm a little offended. Like
I do yoga too.
Why you gotta call it? It can be babble. It can be somebody's babble, but why does it have to be yoga babble?
I feel like he's not ripping on yoga as much as he's ripping on the person trying to exploit yoga.
Yes, I know.
Still hurts, right? still hits a chord. Another one. We owe it to our children to find the right answers. These are corporate mission statements.
Who was that one?
I don't know. I think it was. It doesn't say it. It might have been Volkswagen, because he's about to lose his job too if he hasn't lost it already. Herbert Dice, chief executive of Volkswagen. So all these dudes are just up to this, funny business where they're trying to bring in this spiritual component. Have you heard of a B corporation? Mm-hmm. Like, if they were for real legit about wanting to make the world that much of a better place, and they're not just they don't want to be beholden only to shareholders, wouldn't they have started a B corporation, not a S Corp or LLC?
Yeah, but B Corp is like certification of sorts, right?
Yes.
So you can be organized in whatever way, but it's really about the practices that how you run your business, and you're gonna allow for some sort of audit around that, right? So
wouldn't that, however, then mean the company is not their goal is not just to maximize profits?
Yeah. So you do find, and so what's interesting, right? Like a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago now, the Business Roundtable came out and said, corporations have more of a responsibility beyond shareholder return. It's about stakeholder return, right? And so there are all these, critical articles about, I read one headline that said, you're basically, corporate social responsibility is giving the corporation more power to control things, right? And they had like this whole theoretical framework about how and where power sits in the structure. And so you can just say, like, we're improving the world, and therefore that's your return. And it was weird. There's a lot of criticism right now about these kind of company missions that are just so esoteric. Oh, we're all do-gooders. And we're creating this, we're setting up this fight between profits, right, and people and the planet. And it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive.
It doesn't have to be a fight.
I don't think so.
It can all happen together. Yeah, I feel like when it starts to sound so airy and so highfalutin and so elevate the world's consciousness, it just makes me raise my... You're a real estate company. Yeah, you're a real estate company. It makes me raise my eyebrows.
Right. You're a real estate company elevating the world's consciousness.
Right. You're not a yogi. You're not a yoga studio. That's what
Even yoga studios got in trouble.
What?
Didn't you remember? Did you follow the whole Bikram yoga scandal?
No.
He was trying to elevate something.
Wait, is this kind of the leader? He was definitely elevating something. This is the leader who got told. Yeah, I did follow. That was like maybe a year or two ago, right?
It was
a year ago, maybe.
Like it was going on for a while, and then there were like.
Well, this also reminds me of whole Wild Wild. What was that? Did anyone see that documentary on Netflix? I'm forgetting the name now. I want to say Wild Wild Hunters. But that's not right. That's Roseland, down the south side of Chicago, where I used to go hang out.
The Hunnits.
Right. It was called Wild Wild, not Wild Wild West, Wild Wild. I forget, but it was about a spiritual guide who basically was spiritually abusing people, getting them to do all sorts of very, very, like sexual behavior that was wrong and it was very very
like
sketchy.
The Charles Manson thing.
I think it was kind of like that, but Charles Manson had also murder and stuff included, right?
Yeah.
This did not. I don't think.
Yeah, but I thought there was all kind of weird sexual.
Probably with Charles Manson.
We're looking at John like he's an expert.
You should know, right, John?
Yeah,
I mean, there was a lot of
pretty much every cult has some kind of sexual part to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Manson one's got to have it. The Wild Wild one I'm talking about has to have it.
You said on Netflix? Okay, I'll have to go find it.
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, it got some.
Maybe I can't handle it though.
Yeah, it is actually quite bizarre because there's actual footage of them doing a lot of this.
Yeah, maybe not.
So I feel like ESG, right? Environment, social, governance, right? The wave we're seeing there, where people are allocating their money and their investments towards way more environmentally conscious, social conscious, and governance conscious. We're seeing that wave, and then a lot of the work you're doing, where corporations want to be better corporate citizens, we're seeing that. But then I feel like there's this whole other strain of Adam Newman's and whoever this eBay CEO, Devin Wenig, Kevin Burns of Jewel, like they're all thinking, the moment they start sounding really spiritual, I think shareholders and investors should start to be like, what? Wait a minute. What are you trying to do here? You're trying to get my money and you really are just losing billions of dollars? No, I'm straight.
So I think there's a difference between, sort of a company's mission and taglines, right? Taglines that you might use to engender brand loyalty or, you know, attract certain customer segments or something like that. And I think this is all getting conflated. And so I'm a young entrepreneur and I'm still trying to figure this out myself, but over and over again, all the advice I get and the thing that I am finding to be true is like to really stay core to the mission and what you actually can produce, right? And this is all nice, fluffy, esoteric.
Yeah, so elevate,
feel good stuff.
Elevate
and,
the world's
we have our
consciousness.
taglines too, but come on, at the end of the day, like, you know, what do you deliver?
Right, core, concrete. What do you actually deliver?
And understand where you fit in the market, right? Like, WeWork is real estate.
Yeah,
right.
They're a trumped up version of Regis.
I mean,
that's what they are. They're a little bit
kale.
nicer version of Regis.
It's not kale.
Kale, Kale. What you mean, like the
kale? Kale makes you healthier. Kale can, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I think Adam Newman probably tried to convince them that at some level they're kale.
Well, wasn't there an article about that he told everybody they couldn't eat meat? They mandated.
He banned meat, and then I think they made up a false reason why they banned meat.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cultish.
Just trying to elevate consciousness, I guess.
That's like a cult move, right?
I guess.
But yeah, you're right. So focus on the mission and what you can actually deliver, and good luck trying to deliver elevating people's consciousness.
Oh, I mean, maybe that's like
making the world a better place or making a difference in the world. Like some corporations can't do that, or they make a negative difference. It could be
a consequence of you doing what you do great.
Right.
Which is a great consequence.
So, what's cool is, right, the beautiful aspect of all this is the market worked. Investors were like, all right, we got hoodwinked on Uber. We got hoodwinked on Lyft. Peloton. What's that?
Peloton? I don't know how to say it either.
I don't either. I don't jump on a bike and ride with a bunch of people in my
virtual
closet. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
The ads are cool, though.
Yeah, they are. They have good marketers. For sure.
Peloton,
is that how you say it? Ooh,
have you heard of them?
Just like them.
Peloton.
John's got a serious radio voice.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, if only I could talk more. Yeah.
So the investors got hoodwinked on all three of those. And by the way, a lot of these are funded by a fund called the Vision Fund, who is a dude. Got very rich from Yahoo. I think his name is Masayoshi Son. I believe that's his name. He's a Japanese man. And a lot of the money is Saudi money. So they've all lost a bunch of money with WeWork. I mean, they put $11 billion into WeWork. I think it's worthless.
So do you think that based on what we've seen in such a short time, right? Like all these IPOs, you know,
they were trying
2019 basically.
Yep.
That we're going to see a shift in the principles maybe behind VC funding and this whole, you know, everything that's coming out of the startup world now. Do you think that
it's a good question. Like this whole charismatic leader, and we're going to put a bunch of billions of dollars behind the charismatic leader, I think is getting a hard look right now because it got abused. Because the truth is, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs proved that a charismatic leader is extremely powerful and can move a huge ship towards a goal like Windows 95 or like the iPhone changes the world. So there's precedent for this, for a good charismatic leader, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. That said, I think people like SoftBank started to figure out like, yo, if we get a charismatic leader, put a bunch of money behind him, even if we're losing billions of dollars, we can push this off an IPO into the public. The public will give us billions. Cha-ching. And so I think what's happening is investors are taking a hard look at who this charismatic leader is and being like, okay, the moment you start doing your yoga talk, we're gonna start raising our eyebrows a lot more. Mm-hmm. And so I think what's going to happen is charismatic leaders who are now all getting pushed out are going to start to watch how they carry themselves.
So like, we're charismatic leaders, wouldn't you say? In the
Have you seen me in front of a crowd?
I have.
You should see John in front of a crowd.
But it doesn't, I guess the problem with charismatic leader, or just investing in charismatic leadership, is the notion that it's all it takes, right?
Correct.
And so once again, right, like you're hearing this dichotomy of either charismatic leadership or fundamentals. Oh, fundamentals are boring, so we're going to go with the sexy, shiny, barefoot,
Right,
flip-flop wearing guy.
No meat allowed guy, right?
And so
that's too black and white.
Well, I mean,
because the
don't
truth,
you think it's unrealistic?
Absolutely. Because I mean, look, I think what we do need, the world is changing. Like I strongly believe in the next decade or so, we're going to see a tipping point. We talked about this yesterday. We're going to see a tipping point in some way around social impact with corporations. Because I feel like we're just starting to see, I think you said this yesterday, the ability of a single person to rattle the cage a little bit of a corporation, and suddenly Purdue Pharma and OxyContin is, spiraling downward.
Yeah.
Or some other corporation like WeWork or whatever. We get one analyst, someone to really shake the cage a little bit. And it changed.
Or not an analyst. Like, what is, I think, so fascinating about the Purdue Pharma situation, it was that artist, right?
Yes.
So this is somebody who's sitting far outside, this whole Wall Street construct.
Do you happen to remember her name?
I don't. It was called the Opioid Project.
John, could you look up the Opioid Project and see what the artist's name is? Who basically,
my phone died,
about to.
So
yeah, we'll look it up, John. So yeah, she's a great example of where I think,
I think
call it millennials,
powerful.
right?
I think that's powerful. You
call it millennials, call it whatever you want, but there's a change happening. The change is afoot. It's happening.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a matter of balance, because the change is coming, but you're gonna have some people go like confuse the change and they'll start putting money behind an Adam Neuman or someone like that.
Well, this is the other side of transparency too, right? So, what's Facebook's mission, or do you know that one?
No.
I don't know, something about like connecting people or whatever, right?
Right.
So, that's the other side of transparency. Like I want to see this young woman, Greta Thunberg.
I think
I'm probably saying it wrong. Who just gave a speech at the UN. Like, I want to see where that impact goes, right? Like a 12-year-old who can call attention to something, and ask for people to be responsible. Like, I think that's very different. So we often see, I should say, people in their neighborhood taking a vacant lot, having it become an urban garden or whatever the case is. And so trying to solve the problem in their hood, on their block, on their own, in whatever little way they can. But on the other side of it, there are folks who are responsible for these conditions, these disparate conditions. And to call them on the carpet and say, you need to own and claim this responsibility and do something about it. That's happening. A very exciting movement.
Yeah.
So, according to Purdue's website,
website?
No, not. You don't want to look at their website.
Yeah. They said it's like they have a $10 billion settlement is estimated to provide more than $10 billion of value to address the opioid crisis.
Yes. But look up the words opioid project.
Yeah, it's the name of
All right, I'll take Purdue Pharma off of it.
Yeah. So Facebook's mission is to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when we get close.
Right. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I think it's a balance. I think investors, the market worked. I think it figured out we're gonna stop losing money with these clowns. And if there's emotional intelligence, ESG, this is all a legit thing for leadership.
Some people argue it's just a marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So
the marketing
when the return on this marketing piece starts to decline, the pendulum will swing back.
Right. Right.
I hope not.
I know. I don't think it will. I think the ship has sailed.
Is this it?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a woman's name on there? I believe her name was Anna something.
Let me see.
Or Nancy something. I forget. But so yeah,
Nancy Marks.
Nancy Marks. This is the woman who in 2014, through a visual art installation, brought attention to Purdue Pharma and the OxyContin and the opioid crisis. And so she later called it the opioid project. And here we are, 5 years later, billions and billions of dollars, and the Sacklers are, trying to, the society's trying to basically make them pay justice.
Right. And forcing the entire reorganization of a company, right?
Yeah. So I don't think the pendulum's going to swing back where we lose that power. I think the ship has sailed. I would call it millennials, call it whatever you want, just more consciousness around all this. I just think there's people who are going to abuse it, and the market's starting to wise up to this. And people who are trying to take advantage of it, like SoftBank and Saudi Arabia, sorry, MBS, you've lost a lot of money. And, it couldn't have happened to nicer people. Sorry, MBS, you lost $10 billion on WeWork. So yeah.
You think? I don't feel like they're sweating it, though.
No, they might be. They're trying to sell Aramco for a reason, because they know that oil's going away and electric cars are the future. So, moving on. So, this business roundtable thing you were talking about, Jamie Dimon coming out, right? He's the head of the roundtable, saying that it is not just companies' responsibility to make profit. It's also the responsibility to do you remember what they said?
Be good.
Do good.
Do good, right?
But this is, again, where the balance comes in, right? It's like, do your concrete thing, do your core mission, and do good. You're saying, yes, it's going to be a bumpy road, but we're going to try and figure it out the next decade.
Yeah. Well, I think, and you know this, right? You're a Chase alum. They've been trying to do this well for a long time. They continue to invest more and more and more. Do you really believe this and know this for sure? No, I don't know it for sure. Because you got to be on the inside to know it for sure.
Right.
But I do believe that they've been trying hard at it. Right.
Okay.
And so it's not just in, how much you fund nonprofits, or how many,
how much you give away,
things you sponsor. It's also about what's happening inside the company. And so how people are being elevated, who are you, grooming, what opportunities are being created for mobility. I think that's important.
From a what perspective? From a gender perspective, a race perspective, all things?
Of the above, right?
Any other perspective?
All the perspectives that are just not tall, white, blonde hair, blue-eyed males.
Yeah, I wonder.
Anybody would criticize and say that there's more to do, and there's a lot more to do, and they're not, doing it fast enough or whatever.
You feel it's happening.
I've heard a few stories, and I know a couple of people and I feel like it's a genuine effort. There's some authenticity to it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there in 10 years, so I don't have a strong opinion. But like just seeing what they did with WeWork here, like basically one of the biggest, the bartender was JP Morgan, and Jamie Dimon was directly involved. And I'm like, yo, if anyone could have figured out this whole thing is sketchy,
but it would have been JP Morgan. It's not just WeWork, right? I mean, WeWork is today's poster child for it.
Right.
But I mean, we're talking about a whole segment of companies where this is the calculus, regardless of
they're the poster child because they were
industry or person, whatever.
JP Morgan was saying we'll get you $50 billion. Goldman was saying $60 to $90 billion. If they would have got $90 billion of wealth would have been destructed. It would have been taken out of the hands of average human beings and put in the hands of Adam Neuman, Masayoshi SoftBank, MBS. It would have been put in the hands of JP Morgan and the banks, or Goldman Sachs in this case, if they got $90 billion. That is preposterous to me.
I can't imagine what $90 billion is.
Right, I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Like,
it's
John, help me out here.
I can't fathom.
I can't even imagine what 90 billion M&Ms look like.
I
have
dreams of a comma in my bank account. So
one day,
keep it real for the rest of us, John. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just, I want to believe that they're doing better, but I feel like, man, they got to pay a lot of attention to making profit because there's so much competition. So I feel like companies trying to do this on their own, I don't know, man.
So some philanthropy.
You would know better than me.
So some consciousness washing is what you're hearing in this.
Consciousness washing.
We just
maybe.
made that up. We just made that
That's
up.
good. That is probably, I feel like it's kind of what's going on. It's kind of like
So then how would, well, okay, let's not go down this rabbit hole.
Why not?
Because how would you know, like when okay, so what do you think about Ben and Jerry's?
I haven't kept up with them too much. What's going on with Ben and Jerry's?
Well, you know, they're sort of always trying to do good and be good, and they probably
the Vermont ice cream, Vermont situation.
And what was the latest flavor they made that? What was it about? There was some issue. Maybe it was like a Black Lives Matter thing, and they were gonna proceeds from whatever the new flavor was gonna go to Black Lives Matter.
Wow! So Ben and Jerry's, basically
was it Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, it is Black Lives Matter. Systemic and institutionalized racism are the defining civil rights and social justice issues of our time. Basically Ben and Jerry's.
Do you feel like that's sincere?
Declared support for Black Lives Matter and calls for ice cream boycott.
You feel that's sincere?
I don't know enough about Ben and Jerry's, but you know what? Taking that kind of stand, I mean, I don't know,
Nike
man.
and Kaepernick, right?
Yeah, they took a stand too. I feel like it's got to be a pattern. Like you got to have seen it a lot. Like it's not just suddenly coming out of left field.
All right, but you got to start somewhere.
You would know better than me. For all we know, Ben and Jerry's has a lot of data on their ice cream consumers, and they're like, "Whoa, 90% of people who like our ice cream are black people. We need to get behind Black Lives Matter." Possible, right? Not probable.
Nike probably had the same calculus.
Right.
That was an easy one, right?
Right. I do think at some level they think about that for sure. Right? Come on now. All right. So that's the roundtable.
But let me just say, it is still possible to do well and do good, right?
You say that. So give me like you say that with confidence because I feel like you're on the inside way more than I am. I don't think about this stuff as much. I don't see as much. Okay. So to the extent you can speak about it at Exelon, you worked at Exelon in the past. Did you experience powerful change there? Or shifts or transformations?
Yeah, we did. So as a company,
and just to give people a sense, you were director of.
So I was in the corporate citizenship group, which is responsible for managing these partnerships and community relationships and
making sure Exelon's a good corporate citizen.
And helping them, helping to distribute resources.
Right.
One of the executives there would say, because it's a regulated business, we need friends everywhere. And we need friends all the time. And there's clearly a business imperative there, right? But part of the process of being a good friend and a good neighbor was spreading some of the wealth. I'll give you a better example other than a big corporation. There are smaller companies in our Chicagoland area who have set up their own nonprofit to do, like a nonprofit arm to do education around a particular topic, and they do that for free, right? And so a
coffee company or something.
I'll shout out my girl Rebecca Fife of Landmark Pest Control or Pest Management. Sorry, Rebecca. So, the bed bug ordinance in Chicago is a big deal in urban cities, bed bugs, yada, yada, yada.
And mostly for hotels, I presume?
No, for all of us, everywhere. Like even this chair that we're sitting on right now.
Really? I don't know anything about this.
Like the CTA, right? Remember the CTA? Like they had like the fabric seats or whatever.
Yeah. So the ordinance in the city of Chicago is basically
a big deal, like
making sure people are clean, right?
Yes, because it's
a huge deal.
It's a big deal. And so Rebecca's company has a affiliated nonprofit, and they go out and they do education and training around the ordinance. They help tenants understand their rights as it relates to bed bug abatement.
All right, so she's got a for-profit pest control company dealing with bed bugs, dealing with whatever, insects, mice. And separate from that, she started a nonprofit that will go around, it'll fund itself somehow, and it'll go around and educate people about all of this. Bed bugs, mice, that, sanitation, health, safety.
So think about it. The more successful her company is, the more it supports their ability
get the word out
and to do the other work. Just this week, I was in a conversation with someone.
It'd be like me in this restaurant. I've taken over my father's restaurant earlier this year. It'd be like me starting up a nonprofit related to health food in some way or healthy eating or something like that.
Yeah. But I was in Starbucks the other day and the cabinet said that they donate food locally. Like whatever is not sold that day, they donate locally. I think that's a genuine, and this happens to be a Starbucks next to a CTA stop that, helps you see the homelessness issue in Chicago, right? So the visual of that in my own experience, I was like, this rings true for me. So it's,
I gotcha. Okay.
And yes, you could, from a restaurant perspective, there are probably many ways that you could support your local community.
Right. I think I'm jaded.
You are.
Absolutely.
Jaded, John?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the world.
Armor's an animal.
Adam Neuman got you all worked up.
I'm really pissed at him. Yeah. I'm really pissed at him. But I think I'm jaded because I've lived capitalism. I feel like I was in the nerve center at JP Morgan, right at the heart of a lot of the financing and getting stuff paid for and billions and billions of dollars passing through. I was watching it. And then I would read so much about businesses. I'm like, what is with all these shady people doing sketchy shit for money? And then I learned over time, just watching other friends and family, I'm like, man, we all worship the dollar. I always talk about this joke I make. I'm like, it's not Allahu Akbar, it's Dollar-hu Akbar. Like the dollar is what we're all worshiping. But you know what I'm saying? So I think I've painted too broad of a brush. You see things more clearly, I think, or at least you see things on the philanthropic side or on the corporate citizenship side.
Well, I see the intersection, and I think that there are things that can work in the intersection of that. And then, so again, back to wrap in that earlier point about this movement that we're seeing, right? There's a lot of things converging, transparency in terms of information, access to information, timeliness of information, right? That's feeding all of this movement, and that's creating greater or more collective responsibility. Right. So the notion of something going viral on social media and gathering steam. I mean, Black Lives Matter. We just talked about that. Right. So, and then one day can start out as an idea and the next day, literally within a week, it's a movement. Like I don't know that we've lived in a time where something can sprout that fast.
Yep. That's crazy. That is magnificent.
And have that much impact, right?
Right.
So yes, is it going to be harder maybe to pierce the corporate veil and see some sustained impact given what all those structures are?
For sure.
Perhaps. But I also think, and we know this, right? Change starts on the fringe.
Yep. That's right. And it's happening, baby.
So
I feel it.
Small entrepreneurs, smaller companies like ours, entrepreneurs like you, like that's where it happens.
All right, let's move to talking a little bit about just the economy, what happened this week in markets. So markets on Thursday and Wednesday. So Wednesday and Thursday this week were down almost 3.5%. And everyone's like, whoa, this is an interesting move. What's going on here? And it was basically some economic data. Some economic data showed that the manufacturing sector in this country took a good hit in the third quarter, in the July, August, September, the summer quarter. It took a good hit. Then another piece of data came out about the services industry. Professional services took a pretty good hit. And everyone's like, uh-oh, these are the kind of like, they call them ISM, Institute for Supply Management. They're kind of like these economic data points that no one really looks at except for finance people. And they're like early indicators that stuff, the economy could be starting to sputter a little bit. Then we got some employment data today, which was okay. America generated a whole bunch of jobs. Unemployment rate went down to 3.5%. But it was definitely not as strong as people expected, and it wasn't as strong as it's been the last several months. So everyone's like, man, the economy's starting to slow down.
In small business hiring.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. In general, small businesses were hiring less, I believe. I think it was part of was that earlier in the week or was that part of today's
I thought it was earlier in the week.
I think it was earlier in the week.
Right.
So that looked a little bit soft. Consumer sentiment is starting to go down a little bit. Consumer spending is still positive, but not anywhere near strong. So a bunch of data is starting to flash some yellow lights. Not warning, red alert, but it's like yellow. So I think that's getting, first of all, lost in the whole impeachment inquiry, dominating the news cycle, that the economy and some lesser known data is kind of flashing yellow.
Yeah.
And the second thing is,
you think that's by design?
It probably is. I feel like, well, I don't know, because the Democrats are the ones who are really going with the impeachment inquiry, So like, I don't know. They would want the ideal thing. But
responding to the impeachment inquiry strongly also helps to tamp down any
people paying attention
focus
to
on the economic news.
Exactly. So yeah,
we're all marketers now,
right? We all know it.
We grew up in social media. We're all marketers.
Crazy.
I'm kidding.
So I feel like people aren't paying attention to that. Now, where's that all relevant? What's happened in the last few days is everyone is now betting that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates again. They've already cut rates twice this year. And everyone's talking about them cutting rates even more. And so we're basically on our way back to what we had for a long time, which was 0% rates.
So I was just going to bring that up because I saw a headline that said that they would cut rates to 0%. And I was like, is that real or is this like
Well, for the longest time after the Great Recession, rates stayed at zero for a long time.
Which rates?
They call it the Fed funds rate. It isn't a rate that you or me as consumers can get.
Okay.
We would still pay 20% on our credit cards. We would still, we get lower mortgage rates. Our mortgage rate would be in the 3s instead of the 4s or 5s. So I looked at that and I'm like, I think we need to just let this economy recess. Like we're trying to like give it the drugs that it doesn't really need right now. I see that's how I see interest rates.
What do you think about the impact of the trade wars on all of this? And was that the intention of starting a trade war to begin with? Well,
no, the intention of the trade war was to try and make our economy stronger by getting better trade terms with China. That was Trump's intention. And it hasn't done that at all. I think he's trying to do a long-term play, and there's a whole bunch of question marks around it. So the trade war is having a dampening effect on the economy. It's hurting our economy. It's not a good thing. What interest rates could do is, for a moment, just like drugs, help a person, right? Like a person who gets heroin gets a little high for a little bit, but like you don't want to keep taking heroin every time you feel some sort of weakness. You become an addict, and we know where that goes, right?
Okay, let's pick a different drug.
Too intense.
I don't know that you can take heroin once.
And live through it, you're saying?
Did you ever watch Snowfall on FX?
No, what's Snowfall?
So good. It's about,
really?
Yeah. It was a show John Singleton started. He passed away this year. But so it's about drugs in South Central LA where,
I have heard of this. I haven't watched it.
It's
Snowfall.
So good. So they wrap in the Iran-Contra affair, what's going on in this little neyborhood.
Damn.
Drug dealer, Damson Idris, love him, shout him out. In this neighborhood, like they take a global and local look at it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. But anyway, point is,
heroin.
I'm not aware that you can try heroin once
and live through it.
So we could talk about some weed. You can get a hit off of that.
No, interest rates. See, here's the thing. Interest rates have a they're one of the most powerful inputs into the economy. Where our economy is built, we're all borrowing tons of money.
Right.
It's built on debt. So that when they move interest rates, suddenly the cost of us living changes dramatically.
Yeah.
So they're going to try and lower rates. Hey, it's going to be a little bit cheaper. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't make it that much cheaper for us. It makes it a lot cheaper for business loans. That's who's really going to benefit, is businesses are going to take out a whole bunch more debt. And this is my worry. It's like, why don't we just go into a smaller recession? Instead, we're just pumping up this bubble even more. I had a woman named Margie Sweeney on a couple weeks ago. She's like, yeah, we're just sitting on the bubble, kind of like bouncing on the bubble. And it feels that way. And it's like, yo, just let us go through a recession. It's okay. We'll be okay. You know, but they want to keep lowering interest rates. And I'm like, man, this is not a good move, because what ends up happening is all these companies will borrow so much money because rates are so low. We're going to go back to zero. And they're going to load the balance sheet with more debt. They've already got tons of debt. We're at all-time record high in debt. And they're going to get even more debt. And then the whole thing's going to blow like it always does. Savings and loan crisis, the internet bubble,
so what sector
the Great
do you
Recession.
think might blow this time?
I don't know. I'd have to look at it more closely. But in general,
Manufacturing.
corporations that will have a lot of debt, right? And then we hit a bumpy spot in the recession or some sort of like hiccup in the economy, that whole sector will just be gone. That's basically what happened to the banks in the Great Recession. They lent out way too much money, borrowed way too much money. Something happened, a hiccup with the housing sector, and then lo and behold, they all go to zero and they all blow up. So, you know, it could be banks again, it could be something else, but that's what the Fed is doing now, is they're going to pump it all even up more. And then at the end of it all, when it all blows, who has to pay for it? Us.
We do.
Yeah, by that time, we've been getting 0% on our savings, and we've been paying 23% on our credit cards, and then we got to, you know, so it's like, no, this is not a healthy way to be running an economy. So I'm totally against lowering rates even more. You can fix a lot of these problems through like fiscal ideas, through, you know, solving the trade war, getting out of that mess, having better relationships with some of these other countries and trading better. I mean, through improving research, education, technological innovation, all those things will work for the economy. Instead, we're just lowering rates.
Right.
Scares the hell out of me.
You make me scared now.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I did mean to do that because it drives me bananas how I keep seeing this week after week, and I'm just like, no, why are you doing this? You know, maybe I know too much, and it's making me too negative. I think that's probably me going through the recession at JP Morgan kind of like made me jaded.
Yeah, I hear that. That's coming through. He's, you know.
Probably. What'd you say?
Second time, right?
Yeah, second time around.
The jaded JP Morgan guy has come through.